Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of curated sources and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge to help you get well informed fast. Have you ever felt like the more you learn, the less confident you actually become? Or maybe noticed how rapidly AI is reshaping things we once considered stable, like, how we shop, or even global power structures? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating collection of insights. These come to us from the Pythonist programmer. She's a brilliant software engineering consultant. And this deep dive is inspired by the sources that really caught her eye over the past weekend. So that's July 11th through July 14th, 2025. Our mission here is basically to give you a shortcut, help you understand what's truly important, where human psychology, cutting edge, AI, and global power shifts all intersect.
It really is a remarkable range, isn't it?
Yeah,
You've got the very personal stuff, like what it means to be gifted as an adult, and then you zoom right out to these huge macro implications of tech on like international relations. What's compelling, I think, is how these pieces, which seem so different on the surface, actually fit together. They really shape our present and definitely our future.
Yeah, it highlights how interconnected everything is. What happens in tech definitely doesn't stay just in tech anymore.
Exactly. It impacts our personal lives, global dynamics, everything.
Okay, so let's get into it. We've seen AI touching on abstract ideas, but where's it hitting hardest for maybe a lot of you listening? Probably right in your code editor. And it seems it's a lot more nuanced than just AI speeds everything up. The promise is there, sure, but the reality might be, well, a bit more complicated.
That's a really crucial point. There was this recent study by METR, they're a nonprofit AI research group, and it's a bit of a reality check. They did a randomized controlled trial, pretty rigorous stuff. 16 experienced open source developers working on 246 real tasks in large code repositories. And the striking thing, the developers thought they'd cut completion time by about 24% using AI tools.
Okay, that sounds about right. That's the hype.
Right, but the actual result,
Yeah.
it increased their completion time by 19%.
Wow, 19% longer. That's a huge gap between what they expected and what happened. So what did the study say was going on there?
Well, the researchers suggested a few things. For one, developers were spending more time actually prompting the AI, waiting for it instead of just coding. And it seems the AI tools kind of struggled more when dealing with these really large, complex code bases, which were, central to the study.
Ah, okay. So maybe not ideal for the big, messy projects yet.
Potentially. Now, we should add some caveats, right? Only about half the developers had used Cursor before. That was the main tool. And AI is moving so fast, these results could definitely change. Plus, other studies have shown productivity gains.
Yeah.
But this METR one, it definitely gives us pause, makes you question if it's a universal boost, especially with certain, maybe less structured vibe coding approaches.
That nuance makes me think about specific tools. Because the Pythonist programmer's notes also had this really interesting personal account from a developer, someone who switched from Cursor's agents to Claude Code and apparently isn't looking back. This gives us that practical, day-to-day view.
Yeah, and what really stands out there is how their whole workflow shifted. Like, they now default to asking Claude first and only really review the code themselves when it's, time to check the final changes. They mentioned the VS Code extension is simple, flexible, you can have multiple instances open, and some practical tips came up, like using clear a lot in the terminal UI.
Boy.
To manage token usage, basically keep things efficient. And they mentioned the dangerously skip permissions flag. The developers sort of described it as being like Cursor's old YOLO mode.
Huh? YOLO mode. Sounds risky.
Well, yeah, they acknowledge the risk, for sure, but it points to wanting that less constrained interaction sometimes.
Gotcha. And what about GitHub? Integration seems key these days.
Absolutely. They highlighted the install GitHub app command. It lets Claude automatically review pull requests. And apparently it often catches bugs, even security issues, that the human reviewers miss. Especially if you customize the prompt for the review, focus it on bugs and vulnerabilities, keep it concise.
That sounds incredibly useful, finding things humans miss.
And another thing was performance on big code bases. The developers said Claude Code managed to update this massive, 18,000-line React component. That's a task where other AI agents apparently just got stuck. So it suggests a real step up in handling complexity. They said it gets stuck incredibly rarely.
Okay, that's impressive. And the cost. Doesn't make sense financially.
Seems so. The developer pays $100 a month for the Max plan, but they see it as overwhelmingly worth it compared to, the cost of hiring another human engineer. Plus, there's this message queuing feature. You can type in several prompts, one after another, and Claude just works through them intelligently, lets the developer focus elsewhere while it churns away.
So multitasking for the AI. Nice.
Yeah, and lots of customization too. Custom hooks, slash commands, project-specific setups using clud.md files.
What's a clud.md file?
It's basically a markdown file where you can tell Claude about the project, key commands, even specific checks like running prettier or type checks before it accepts edits. So if you connect this back to the METR study, it's kind of a paradox, isn't it? AI can give huge gains in specific structured tasks, PR reviews, handling queues, but the study hints that for experienced devs in complex code bases, just relying on AI all the time might actually slow you down.
Right, so the skill isn't just using the tool.
Exactly. It's knowing when to use it and how to prompt it effectively. It's like a new kind of digital craftsmanship emerging.
That makes sense. So speaking of shifts, AI isn't just in the code editor anymore. It's like rapidly moving towards our shopping carts. What was the most surprising thing for you looking at how AI is starting to mess with our shopping habits?
The really critical thing, I think, is that AI just doesn't see the internet like we do. A lot of those dynamic bits on websites, the stuff powered by JavaScript, often invisible to LLMs. And this is forcing retailers, everyone from Walmart to fancy luxury brands, to completely rethink their websites, their advertising. They need to catch the AI's eye, not just ours.
Whoa, that's a fundamental shift. Are we seeing actual impact already?
Oh, yeah. The numbers are pretty dramatic. U.S. retailers saw visits from generative AI jump, get this, 1,200% between July 2024 and February 2025. And Salesforce is predicting these AI platforms and agents will drive something like $260 billion in global online sales just this holiday season.
$260 billion, that's massive. And these agents, they can actually buy stuff.
Yep. Agents from OpenAI, Perplexity, Google, they can navigate sites, add things to the cart, even complete the checkout. Yeah. Google's agent can apparently even buy something automatically if the price drops to what you set.
Okay, that changes everything for online stores.
Totally. It means businesses need to optimize differently. We're moving beyond just SEO, search engine optimization, towards GEO, generative engine optimization, or AEO, answer engine optimization.
So what is the AI like? What attracts it?
Rich, well-structured content seems key. Lots of online chatter, reviews. And having good product feeds, like into Google's Merchant Center, is crucial.
But it can't be smooth sailing for retailers, right? Aren't websites often designed to block bots?
Exactly. That's a huge challenge. Websites trying to stop malicious bots might block these shopping agents, too. And payments are tricky. Although Visa's working on it with something called intelligent commerce, verifying good bots. Login fields can also trip them up.
And are people actually using these yet, or is it still super early days?
It's early, but the trend is there. A Salesforce survey found like 63% interest among Gen Z in using AI agents for shopping. It definitely points towards a future where AI drives a lot more e-commerce, starting and finishing right there on the agent platforms.
Right, and speaking of AI getting integrated, Claude is also making moves beyond just code, isn't it? There's this new directory of tools it can connect to.
Yes, that's a major step. They're calling it an informed AI collaborator. The idea is Claude can access the same tools and data you use. So examples they gave were like writing release notes directly from your linear tickets, or turning a creative brief into a social media post using Canva, or even converting Figma files into production code.
Wow, connecting directly to other apps, even Stripe data.
Yeah, potentially accessing Stripe customer data for payment stuff.
Oh.
The directory is open to all users, but the connectors for remote apps are for paid users. It really highlights this key trend. AI isn't just about text or images anymore. It's about seamless integration into our workflows, affecting everything from how we shop to how businesses operate.
The challenge then for businesses is adapting to an internet that's increasingly being, well, viewed by machines.
Precisely. Not just humans anymore.
Okay, this all leads to a kind of bigger, maybe more philosophical question. With all the knowledge these LMs have, why haven't we seen, like, genuine breakthroughs, truly unexpected insights? They give great answers, sure, but where's the real novelty?
That's the exact puzzle tackled in this concept called LLM daydreaming. The core issue identified is that current LLMs are fundamentally frozen. They don't learn from new stuff after their training, and they're amnesiacs. They forget past interactions. Humans, though, we're always learning, always thinking, even subconsciously, right? That incubation effect where solutions just pop up.
Yeah, or insights from dreams. The default mode network stuff.
Exactly. Our minds wander, make connections. LLMs only really react to a specific prompt. They don't just mull things over.
That's a huge difference. So the hypothesis for AI is this daydreaming loop, DDL. Can you break that down? What does that actually mean?
Sure. Imagine an AI that isn't just passively waiting. It's constantly in the background, sort of thinking. It takes pairs of concepts from its memory. Then one part, like a generator, tries to find weird, non-obvious links between them. Another part, the critic, evaluates if those links are actually valuable or novel, and the good ideas get fed back into its memory. It's like mimicking that human mind wandering, that wool gathering that often leads to breakthroughs.
So it's like a built-in, always-on R&D department inside the AI, constantly searching for novelty.
Pretty much. Now, this would come at a cost, right? A daydreaming tax. It would need significant compute power because most of the connections it explores probably won't be useful. The hit rate for true novelty would be low.
But potentially worth it for genuine innovation.
That's the argument. And it has this other fascinating implication. It could create a data moat. These expensive daydreaming AIs could generate unique, proprietary training data insights no one else has, which could then be used to train the next generation of cheaper, more efficient models. It's a potential way around the looming data wall, where we run out of human-generated data.
Huh. So innovation might come from this wasteful background process, not just direct questions.
Exactly. It really pushes us to think about what core parts of human thinking we still need to replicate in AI to get beyond just calculation and towards real insight.
Okay, so from the absolute cutting edge of AI thinking, let's shift our focus. Let's talk about the human element within all this tech. Specifically, something maybe quite relatable for folks in demanding fields, how our own cognitive wiring, especially for people sometimes labeled gifted, can paradoxically get in the way of confidence and connection.
Yeah, this is a really insightful area. One source, 6 Reasons Gifted Adults Don't Feel Confident with Knowing More, explores this core paradox. It suggests that for people who think deeply, feeling less confident isn't necessarily a flaw. It's actually a sign of their awareness of complexity. One big reason is hitting that valley of despair on the Dunning-Kruger curve. Beginners are often overconfident, but as you learn more, you see how much you don't know, and confidence dips.
Oh, I definitely recognize that feeling. Like you read one article on something and feel like an expert, then you read 10 more and realize it's way more complicated, and suddenly you feel like you know nothing.
Exactly. That's the feeling. So that lack of certainty, it's actually a sign of depth, not a deficit. The source also points out that gifted minds naturally pick up on nuances, complexities, contradictions, which expands awareness, but makes simple certainty feel, well, elusive.
So you end up thinking in both hand terms, getting comfortable saying, I don't know yet.
Right. But the downside is that this intellectual humility can sometimes slide into paralyzing self-doubt. People confuse being humble with being inadequate.
And I bet high expectations play a role too. Pressure to be perfect.
Definitely. Internalized pressure to perform flawlessly, equating your worth with knowing everything, that creates a fear of looking vulnerable, of asking questions. The advice is to start small with vulnerability. Aim for good enough.
Makes sense. And the source mentioned emotional wounds too.
Yeah, that was quite poignant. Childhood experiences being called too sensitive, too intense, weird, can really undermine your trust in your own insights later on. So the takeaway really is that confidence for these kinds of adults isn't about certainty. It's about being okay with uncertainty, trusting your knowledge as it evolves, and allowing yourself to be imperfect.
That really resonates. And building on that, there was another piece, gifted adult entitlement. When confidence conceals deep loneliness, this explores an even deeper, maybe more painful side, the idea that getting praised only for your intellect early on can lead to this sort of quiet entitlement that's actually masking deep insecurity and a real hunger for connection.
It's a powerful concept, isn't it? This idea of intelligence as armor.
Totally. Using intellect to dodge emotional vulnerability. Like instead of just saying, I'm scared, you might quote attachment theory.
Or give a polished presentation about burnout instead of just asking a colleague for help. It's performing connection instead of actually connecting.
And it challenged that whole misunderstood genius trope saying disconnection isn't depth. Sometimes it said, you're not misunderstood, you're unapproachable. Ouch.
Yeah, pretty direct.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests treating intimacy itself as a form of intelligence. Letting your presence, not just your performance, be the offering.
And that ties into performance-based attachment. Feeling like your value depends on being exceptional. So fearing mediocrity isn't just fearing being average, it's fearing being invisible.
Exactly. The message is really about learning that you are allowed to be regular, to rest, to be held without proving your worth.
That's really profound.
It really shines a light on the kind of human cost of focusing solely on intellectual development, especially in intense fields like tech. It underscores how vital it is to integrate our intellect with our emotional selves, our relational selves, not just for personal happiness, but for real collaboration, real growth, effective leadership. These aren't just personal issues, they're patterns that play out in teams and organizations.
That's a perfect bridge, actually, connecting these personal dynamics to the professional world, especially engineering leadership, where, technical skill is often prized above all else, but that can lead to friction. Conflict's inevitable, right? Especially when it feels personal.
Absolutely. And that's the focus of how engineering leaders stay calm and effective when it gets personal. It starts from the premise that conflict will happen, especially when your decisions get questioned or someone seems to be undermining you. The specific challenge for engineering leaders, they're often trained for logic, for systems, not necessarily for navigating emotional chaos. But ignoring the emotions just makes things escalate.
Right. So the article offered a framework from George Mldenovich.
Yes, his conflict diffusion framework. It sounds simple, but it's really powerful. 4 steps. 1, pause. Just create that little bit of space between the trigger and your reaction. Think Viktor Frankl, The Space Where Choice Lies. 2, validate. Acknowledge the other person's perspective or emotion. You don't have to agree, just show you hear them. I can see this is important to you. 3, reframe. Shift the focus away from the conflict itself and towards a shared goal. We both want this project to succeed. And 4, invite. Make a collaborative gesture. What would feel like a good next step here, or how can we work together on this?
Pause, validate, reframe, invite. Okay.
Can you give an example of how that works in practice? Sure. The source had several. Say, conflict with a team member who missed a deadline and gets defensive. The emotional mistake is letting your frustration turn feedback into feeling like you're just trying to control them. Instead, pause. Validate. I hear you. It sounds like that change caught you off guard. Reframe. We both want to deliver reliably. Maybe we can sync priorities more often. Invite. Would a quick 5-minute check-in twice a week help?
Okay, I see how that de-escalates things. What about with someone outside the team, like UX?
Right. Common scenario. Late spec changes. Engineers frustrated. The mistake is treating collaboration like a competition, us versus them. Instead, pause. Validate. I see how important getting that user feedback incorporated is to you. Reframe. Let's figure out a rhythm where we can respond to feedback without completely burning out the team. Invite. What kind of sync would help us align before changes hit sprint planning?
It really shifts the dynamic towards problem solving together.
Exactly. It's about choosing empathy over ego, especially when your pride feels bruised or the pressure's high. That EQ, that emotional intelligence, is what turns tension into trust. It's real leadership.
Absolutely. And speaking of complex challenges where things can go wrong, AI's evolution isn't just changing shopping, it's also supercharging some pretty nasty digital threats, like vishing.
Yeah, vishing, voice phishing is something cybersecurity experts are really wary of right now, precisely because AI is making it so much better, so much harder to detect. The CEO of Bitwarden, Michael Crandell, even did a demo showing just how convincing an AI voice clone can be. It's kind of chilling.
Especially since other attacks are already up, right?
Right. The source mentioned email and phishing attacks in fintech were up 23% and 17% respectively year over year. What generative AI does is let the scammers pivot during the call, react naturally, make the conversation feel real. It plays on our social instincts, creates false urgency, a fake sense of connection.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So what can be done? What are the solutions?
Well, investing in deepfake detection technology is part of it. But honestly, a huge part is educating people's staff, ourselves, because humans are often the weakest link. Plus, just basic security hygiene, double-checking requests, verifying things through a different channel, like calling someone back on a known number, not the one they called from.
Good reminders. And this concern for safety ties into consumer rights more broadly in the digital world, doesn't it? Like that click-to-cancel rule that got shot down?
Yes, that was a significant setback. The FTC's rule aimed to make canceling a subscription just as easy as signing up for it. Seems logical.
It really does. If sign-up is 2 clicks, cancellation shouldn't involve phone calls and mazes.
Exactly. But consumers still face that labyrinth of puzzles, phone calls, sometimes even needing to go somewhere in person, confusing website buttons. Now, the court struck it down based on procedural issues, not the actual substance of the rule. So there's hope.
Hope that the FTC tries again, or states step in.
Both. Consumer advocates definitely want the FTC to revisit it. And some states, like California, already have their own similar rules that are still intact. Consumer demand for this is really strong. So these 2 points together, the AI phishing threat and the fight for easy cancellation, they really underscore this theme of digital safety and ethics. On one side, you have immediate scary threats from AI misused by bad actors. On the other, systemic battles to protect basic consumer rights in this subscription economy we live in. Both need real vigilance, from us as individuals and from regulators.
Okay, let's widen the lens now, really broaden the scope to the global impact of tech, and specifically its role in power dynamics. There was one piece in the Pythonist programmer's curation that was, frankly, pretty unsettling when you view things through its particular framework.
You're talking about the enshittification of American power, right? It takes Cory Doctorow's concept, how platforms eventually squeeze users and suppliers once they're locked in, and applies it to U.S. statecraft, particularly looking ahead to a potential Trump 2.0 scenario. The core argument is that U.S. global power, its hegemony, has been built on critical infrastructures that effectively act as platforms. And these platforms are increasingly being seen or used as tools of coercion.
Okay, so what are these U.S. platforms it identified?
Well, first, military technologies. Think of the F-35 fighter jet. It's not just a plane. Buying it means relying on the U.S. for ongoing maintenance, crucial software updates, intelligence feeds. It creates a kill chain where the U.S. could theoretically break the platform if it wanted to. The source cited an example of the U.S. reportedly cutting intelligence streams to Ukraine after a specific meeting.
Right, and then there's the financial system.
Exactly, the dollar clearing system. Global banks have to route transactions through U.S.-regulated institutions. This gives the U.S. huge leverage to enforce its financial policies globally via sanctions. The piece mentioned the sanctions on Hong Kong's Carrie Lam, who apparently then had to deal in piles of cash, and that more recent report about Microsoft allegedly shutting down the International Criminal Court prosecutor's email after U.S. sanctions were imposed.
Wow. Okay, military, finance, what else?
Satellites, specifically Starlink. It controls something like 65% of active satellites. It's become absolutely essential for internet access in many parts of the world, including conflict zones. And the source brought up reports that the Trump administration threatened to pull Starlink from Ukraine unless they got concessions on mineral rights. And Elon Musk himself apparently boasted that Ukraine's entire front line would collapse if he switched it off.
That's incredible leverage concentrated in one company, potentially influenced by one government.
And the fourth platform mentioned is cloud computing. Think Amazon, Microsoft. European governments, banks, they heavily rely on these U.S. companies. So there's this growing fear among allies. What if the U.S. decides to choke off access to our own data stored on their clouds? Microsoft might promise to contest illegal demands, but that reported incident with the ICC prosecutor raises doubts.
So how are allies reacting to this realization of dependency?
They're starting to speak out, pretty loudly actually. The source quotes German politician Friedrich Merz talking about achieving independence from the U.S., French President Macron, Canada's Mark Carney saying the relationship was over, even the EU Commission head Ursula von der Leyen stating the West as we knew it no longer exists.
Strong words. Are they doing anything beyond talking?
Yes, actions are starting. There are serious discussions about creating a Eurostack, basically an EU-led digital supply chain for tech sovereignty. Also, an EU joint defense fund specifically not buying from the U.S., plans for an EU satellite network to compete with Starlink, and even the European Central Bank talking about building an independent payments infrastructure.
But decoupling must be incredibly hard, right, after decades of integration?
Extremely hard. Think about Denmark, which committed to the F-35. Or Canada switching suppliers could leave them with a non-interoperable air force. And there can be real economic pain. The article mentions Ontario, Canada, canceling a Starlink deal and now apparently paying more for slower physical connections. It's not easy to just switch.
And the article also had a sting in the tail, didn't it? But the U.S. itself.
Yeah, the U.S. angle. The argument is that this enshittification isn't just an external strategy. U.S. citizens are vulnerable too. It points to the Trump administration using federal payment systems against domestic groups and the merging of huge federal databases by companies like Palantir creating unprecedented surveillance capabilities. The fear articulated is of a diminished nightmare America like a post-Musk Twitter at scale, where everything works badly, everything can be turned against you, and everyone else has fled. Pretty stark.
Definitely stark.
So this whole analysis feeds directly into that theme of global tech politics. It paints a picture where these tech platforms, which we used to see as just connecting the world, are increasingly becoming tools of state power, of coercion. It really forces nations, and even us as individuals, to rethink our dependencies in this rapidly changing geopolitical world. It's absolutely a critical area for anyone involved in technology to be thinking about strategically. Hashtag outro.
Wow. Well, we have certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive today,
Yeah.
from the really intricate workings of our own minds and how we feel confidence, to the fast evolving landscape of AI and coding and shopping, right up to the structure of international power. It's just so clear that technology isn't just a tool anymore, is it? It's this fundamental force shaping who we are, how we interact, really on every single level.
Absolutely. What really stands out, looking back at all these sources the Pythonist programmer pulled together, is that constant interplay. Human behavior, tech innovation, societal structures, they're all linked. It's kind of disturbing how the same enshittification idea we see play out on a software platform can be mapped onto geopolitics. And those psychological challenges of giftedness, they're a potent reminder that even with all this tech progress, the human condition complex, messy, vital, is still paramount. It affects everything.
It really does. It leaves us with a lot to think about. So, here's a final thought for you listening. As AI gets woven deeper and deeper into our lives, how we shop, how we code, how nations wield influence, what responsibilities do you think fall on us? On individuals, on the technologists building these systems, on governments? How do we ensure these incredibly powerful new systems are used to foster connection, genuine innovation, and not just isolation and control?
Something to definitely mull over. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Python as Programmers Weekend sources. We hope you found these insights valuable and encourage you to keep exploring these really vital topics. Hashtag episode sources. AI reality check. AI coding tools may not speed up every developer. Study shows. How I use Claude Code, plus my best tips. LLM daydreaming. Human at the center. How engineering leaders stay calm and effective when it gets personal. Neurocomplexity and burnout. 6 reasons gifted adults don't feel confident with knowing more. Gifted adult entitlement. When confidence conceals deep loneliness. Gifted adult entitlement. Emerging tech. Real impact. Gifted adult entitlement. AI shopping is here. Will retailers get left behind? Discover tools that work with Claude. Browse and connect your favorite apps and tools in one click. Discover tools that work with Claude. Digital safety and ethics. Discover tools that work with Claude. Cybersecurity experts are wary of phishing as AI accelerates its development. Discover tools that work with Claude. The click-to-cancel rule is killed, but consumer advocates could revive it. Discover tools that work with Claude. Global tech politics. Discover tools that work with Claude. The enshittification of American power.